Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Have some, I think, a good video today for you. Mostly because I want to do kind of a quick recap of what happened yesterday. And it's just exciting. We had our monthly meeting that we have. And I'm telling you, I know, I say this all the time. It's the best one ever. It was the best meeting that we've had so far. It was really good. Want to get into a little bit of that. And then, after I talk about that, I also want to talk about the supply chain again. Yes, I've been talking about that a lot, but it's extremely important, and there's some more information on top of all the things that we've been talking about in dealing with the supply chain and the ships that are out there in the ocean that's, not moving, the docks that aren't moving, all that kind of stuff. There's more, and I'm not the only one. I get people kind of think that I'm the only one out there screaming and yelling about this and no one's listening. It's not just me. There's a lot of people, a lot of very important people that are saying the same thing. And I'm telling you folks, if you think 2020 was bad, if you think that this year is bad, you wait till next year. You ain't seen nothing yet. This is just the warm up. The pitcher's just in the bullpen. He's just warming up. Next year, the shipping crisis, the supply chain collapse is going to take the mound. And things are going to get bad. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But first, I want to talk about yesterday. If you somehow don't realize this, we have monthly meetings here in my area, which I'm in the Missouri Ozarks. And we have them here. We're about in the middle of the Missouri Ozarks. And yesterday was another one of our meetings, and it was amazing. Right at 200 people showed up, which seems to kind of becoming that average. Just the best people ever. I don't know how to explain it, but lots of families, a lot of age difference, meaning that there was a lot of little kids there, a lot of young people, young married couples, middle-aged folks, all the way up to, no offense, but the very elderly. A very good blending of people, blending of backgrounds, blending of beliefs, ethnicities, everything. It's just, and to see people come together like that. Some of them have gotten to know each other because they've been coming to the meetings. And then some, of course, were brand new. This was their first time. And it didn't really matter because it was just like instant family. There were people there that yesterday was their first time, and they stayed till very late, hanging out with other people that's been coming since the very beginning. And it was just like they've always known each other. And then that was what was the beautiful part about what's going on here. Yes, we have a meeting kind of in the middle of the time. My wife and I, we spent 11 hours there yesterday at the facility that we rent out. We got home a little after 8. And there were people there pretty much the whole time that we were there. And the meeting itself takes up about 2.5 hours of all that time. So all the rest is just people kind of coming and going, just getting to know each other and talking and planning and it's beautiful. It really is. It's so energizing. Physically, I'm kind of wore out, being on my feet all day, talking with that many people. It's draining in that aspect, but it's extremely energizing in other ways. There were people, again, from all over the country. One couple, it was so interesting, they showed up from Arizona. They just happened to be like on a vacation, and they weren't too far away on their vacation, so they drove in to attend the meeting, even though that they're from Arizona, and that was pretty cool. And there were some folks there from Florida that's wanting to move up here, a few other states, and then people that's recently moved to the Ozarks, and then lots of people that's been in the Ozarks most of their life or even all their lives. So that was all exciting too. We had some great speakers, people talking about, and once again, Patrick from the Missouri Liberty Alliance. If you don't know who they are, you should look him up on YouTube. He does a live stream all the time. And him and his organization, they're kind of like almost a sister organization, I guess. They kind of handle more of the political side, and they go in and they push for legislation on a state level that really not just brings back but locks in real liberty here in America, combating a lot of the stuff that's happening on the federal level. And they were the organization that was very key into getting the Second Amendment Preservation Act passed here in Missouri, which we have the very best one, the only one that has teeth to it, that puts a financial penalty on government agencies that enforce unconstitutional gun control legislations. Anyways, so he spoke for a while, and the guy's brilliant. He talks about several different things. Then we had some other people talking about, one made a homemade food dehydrator, another lady that everyone just fell in love with, and she has to come back. We've already talked to her about that. She's an herbalist, and talking about she grew up on a Navajo reservation, and so she's got a lot of insight in how things were done a long time ago. And so she passed on a lot of those remedies and thoughts and tips. And then I talked about kind of what's just going on here in the local area, and some future things that we're working on, and it worked out just great. There was one couple that, when they came before the meeting started, they were talking to me about how they just felt so much pressure in a way to kind of build a little community around them, that they just feel that is so critical, and that's why they're coming to the meetings. And they were so hopeful that they could, meet people at these meetings, because that's really the main focus, so that they could meet people that live around them and kind of build their own little community, their own little mag group or something like that. And she was asking me beforehand, she goes, "You think that, it could happen here?" And I said, "It's very possible." And so at the end of the meeting, I do it every time, and I pass a microphone around that anyone that wants to can stand up, state their name, and say, "This is kind of the general area that I live in." They don't have to give specifics. I live in the eastern part of such and such county, and if people live around me and they want to get together, that's fine. So of course they did that, and many others did. And before they left, she came up to me and she said, "I just wanted to let you know that we have met 10 other people, and we're all meeting tomorrow night," which actually will be today. We're all meeting for dinner, and we're all going to start talking and they just happen to all live right around us. We just couldn't believe so many people here actually live just right around us, and we're all meeting together, having a meal together, and kind of planning on building something more local. That's the real reason why we're doing what we're doing with these meetings. And it's exciting to see it happen, and see a very family-like environment there. My wife and many of the other ladies provided an amazing meal. They just lots of food brought in. If you left hungry yesterday, I don't know what to tell you. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and for all of you that showed up yesterday, thank you so much. For those that couldn't make it, hopefully we'll have another one. I haven't nailed down the date just yet. I'll know in a few days, but should be 4 to 5 weeks from now. Same time, same place. In fact, I forgot to say this. There's one little thing, and I'll get on with the rest of the video. So the organization, that this building it's not a government, like municipal type of building. There's a nonprofit organization that runs it, and they rent it out for like weddings and different events like that, family reunions, that kind of stuff. Anyways, there's also a park next to it, and so the people that run the building were having a little thing for kids the same time that our meeting was going on over at the park. And so while our meeting's going on, they would bring some of the kids in. They needed to use the restroom and stuff, so they would come in and use the restroom. So anyways, the lady that is in charge of that event next to us is also the same lady that runs the building that we're using. And so she's in here, bringing some kids in, little kids, let them use the restroom. And while one of the speakers is talking, and she talked to me, she pulled me aside and she said, "This is amazing what you're doing here." She said, "Can anyone come to it?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Our doors are open. Anyone can come to this." She goes, "This is so amazing." She said, "All the people over at our event," she said, "they want to come over and they want to be part of your group. Like they brought their kids over to, use the restroom, and they're just excited. They love what you're talking about, and they want to be involved." I said, "Anyone can be involved. This isn't any kind of closed door meeting." So that was really exciting. Anyways, I just thought I would let you know it was a really good meeting. Thank you for all that came, and I hope that we'll see you again in just a few weeks. All right, so let's move on to this whole supply chain thing. I'll try to wrap this up pretty shortly. I may end up making another video on this because there is a lot going on. Before I get started with it, I do want to give credit where credit is due on this. Glenn Beck, you all know who Glenn Beck is. I don't have to tell you that. I think, even though there's certain things about him I wish he was a little different on, maybe I don't fully agree on every little aspect. I think when it comes to someone that's more prominent, he's definitely like not a mainstream media person, but someone that has a very large audience. I think he's one of the few that's really kind of holding the line of truth. So many of the conservative talk show hosts and stuff like that, they've fallen victim to this and promoting it and all this kind of stuff. And Glenn hasn't. So he did a video on this, and that's where I got the inspiration for telling you and passing this information on. And I'll leave a link to that video in the description so you can go watch his, because it's good. It's really good. Anyways, so you're aware of the supply chain problems we've talked about already with ships that aren't being able to be unloaded. There's, 100 plus usually at any given time, and sometimes that number comes down a little bit, but then it goes back up because there's just a lot of ships, and most of them are obviously around LA. The LA ports, anywhere between 40 and 60% of the imported goods that come into this in this country funnel through the ports there in California. So they're very important. They're strategically important. And it's not getting any better. There was a guy named Mike Beckham. He's a CEO of a company here in America, and they manufacture things out of stainless steel, cups and bowls, that kind of stuff. And it was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, and this is the article that he was interviewed in just a couple of days ago in the Wall Street Journal. And he's trying to wake people up and say, this is bad. Things are much worse than we thought. We're not just having a problem with ships being off, anchored off coast. We're not just having problems with not enough workers to unload the ships. We're not just having enough of the problems of enough truck drivers to deliver the stuff. There's problems over in China that most people aren't even aware of. China is going through a lot of financial problems right now. China is going through a major energy crisis right now. There's been this thing for the last few decades of trying to, end carbon emissions all over the planet. And so all these countries, including the US, can brag now saying, we've reduced our carbon emissions and blah, blah, blah. Well, all they did is they transferred them to another country, because all this time China's been the country saying, well, we'll take all your carbon emissions. And what I mean by that, they've taken all the manufacturing. So America can say, we don't produce that much carbon emissions anymore. Well, no, it's because all of the factories that produce the majority of that all shifted to China, and so did the rest of the world. And so China is an extremely pollutant nation. Well, now they're trying to fix that. And they're fixing that by cutting back way back on electricity, on coal production. And then other countries that send them coal to create electricity aren't able to do that because of obvious COVID shutdowns and stuff. So there's this big monster over there about ready to break out of its cage that's causing already, and that will cause major catastrophic damages all over the world when it comes to supply chain. There are already factories in China that they've cut the electricity back so much that the workers are having to do their job by candlelight because they can't even turn the lights on in the factory to do their work. There's factories that they've cut back the amount of hours that they work. There's a lot of stuff going on with this, folks. If you really get into it and you look at the energy crisis that they're having, the financial crisis that they're having, and then you add to that the stuff that's happening here in America with unloading the ships and transporting the stuff, it is massively large of a problem. And Wall Street Journal, Glenn Beck, several analysts, they're all warning people, if you think it's bad now, this ain't nothing compared to how bad it's going to be. We are looking at a complete collapse of our supply chain. We've seen damages and ripples and cracks in the supply chain all this year, with certain times not being able to find things and seeing empty shelves sporadically across the nation. But everyone is saying on this their end, their industry end, that they don't see any way to fix this problem right away, and it's all going to collapse probably sometime in the year 2022, which is just a few months away. In fact, so much so that Glenn Beck reported that a group of industry folks, shipping folks, dock workers, transit, trucking and stuff, they all went to the United Nations and telling them that, hey, you need to wake up. All these restrictions that you've put on all these nations for the last 18 months, it's completely destroyed the supply chain, and it's all going to come collapsing down within months. That we can't stop it. We can't keep propping this up anymore. So I'm telling you, folks, it looks like it's going to start getting rough. So if you're able to continue stocking up, you certainly should, because it doesn't look like there's any end in sight for a while, and it looks like it's going to progressively get worse. Along with that, and I'll probably cover this also in another video because it's another subject, but it plays into it. There's a lot more saber rattling going on with China, and between China and Taiwan, and us and China and Japan, and us with Japan and China and the UK. In fact, did you know that right now, as I'm speaking, there are 4 carrier groups. 4 carrier groups. If you know what a carrier group is, you know that's quite significant. Stationed just off of Okinawa in the South China Sea, kind of between Okinawa and Taiwan and China, all in that area. 4 of them. 2 of ours, 1 Japanese, and 1 British. Interesting. In the last 3 days, China has flown dozens of fighter jets and bombers into Taiwan airspace, and Taiwan has been saying, hey, we feel we are on the brink of an invasion. We need help. And then you've got 4 carrier groups right there. That's significant, folks. I suspect, my gut is that we probably will see some kind of conflict, and I'm sure it'll all be in a way staged, at least behind closed doors. I believe that our administration, the Chinese and stuff, are kind of planning this out to benefit all. But nevertheless, we could see that. And if we see that kind of stuff, that's going to even cause an even greater problem when it comes to our supply chain. So, folks, you've got to start getting ready if you haven't. And if you have, please take it as seriously as possible. I don't want you to go so overboard that you're putting yourself into massive debt or making massive sacrifices necessarily, but you probably should consider making some sacrifices and stocking up, because things are looking pretty rough. And we're hearing, like I said, this Wall Street Journal article, the things that Glenn Beck points out, and there are others. There's other articles out there of several other industry experts that are saying the exact same thing, that are warning people, that are warning businesses. There's articles out just in the last few days of different major corporations, even Amazon, saying that they're having a problem. They're having a problem keeping up. Walmart, Kroger, other places. And this day of going to the store and getting what you want and maybe seeing a few bare shelves, it's going to get a lot worse. You're going to go to the store even if it's still even open, and there's not going to be anything on the shelves. And when that happens, I think this nation is going to see a crisis that they've never seen, because this nation has never experienced that before. And to avoid getting caught up in that and avoid feeling the immediate and serious repercussions of that, get yourselves prepared, folks. That's what we talk about on here all the time, is get yourselves prepared. All right, folks, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.